Fear is one of those destructive bombs that we must be aware of in our lives. And once we are able to identify that, we'll be able to detonate that bomb so that we are able to take charge of our lives and not be restricted by something that we can manage. My name is Botaki Hlalele from Dreams Made Possible. We are continuing to share Life 101 conversations for a great life so that we can continue to educate and empower others so that they can become the greatest version of themselves. Please click on the link below so that we can continue to change lives out there and grow a community of dreamers. Let's go back to the subject of fear. What makes you fearful? What makes you to stand backwards and not be able to challenge things that are happening in your life? But maybe let's ask the question, will fear ever disappear? No. Fear will continue to be with us. We might start fearing something, and then as time goes on, we overcome that fear. And then when we step up to some new challenge in our lives, that fear comes back again. So what I'm trying to say to you is that fear is something that will remain with us. The one thing that I think we need to do as individuals is to make sure that we are not paralyzed, we are not limited by fear. We rather come to a situation where the thing that we've got to fear is fear itself, and then end up conquering it. Feel the fear, but do it anyway. Maybe let me share with you a few steps that you can follow to be able to conquer and deal with your fear. Anything starts with acknowledgement if you want to effect any change. Until you acknowledge that you've got fear about something, then your life is not going to change. Let us just make an example. If you are denying that you are in debt, chances are you are going to continue to spend money and spend it over and over, and you will end up being in debt. But once you acknowledge that you are deep in debt, you start to acknowledge and you change your spending patterns. The same goes with fear. You need to acknowledge that you've got fear of something so that you can be able to deal with it. Anything that you do not name, anything that you don't attach a label to, it will be difficult for you to deal with it. So it is up to you to name that fear so that you are able to deal with it. If it's a fear of success, name it. If it's fear of water, all the different fears that you're experiencing, name those fears. If you've got a fear for driving, name that fear and acknowledge that you've got a fear of driving. I mean, you going out to your friends and say, I don't drive because I just want to drive. I'll have money, other people will drive me. Or I don't want to drive because taxi drivers are bad drivers out there. It's just one way of you denying and not acknowledging that you've got the fear. And the more you continue on that trajectory and rationalization, you will never get to a point where you are going to conquer that particular fear. So the first step is about acknowledging the fear. Let's go to the second step. And for me, this is a powerful tool of visualization. Visualize yourself into the future and imagine what could go worse. Ask yourself the questions. If I allow this fear to limit me, how would my life look like a week from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, a decade from now? If I allow this fear to continue to take over all areas of my life, how would my life look in the next 10 years? If you were to do that exercise and focus on it, you will come to answers that are going to shake you up so that you will be able to move and dislocate this fear and deal with the different parts of what is really curtailing you to achieve the future that you want to achieve. And let's make an example here. If your passion is speaking, as an example, and your fear is just to stand in front of people or even to face the camera like I'm doing now. And you imagine that in the next 10 years, you still are not able to speak in front of people, and it's your passion is burning you. Do you realize that the worst in that situation is that you could potentially be in the same situation? You could have missed impacting other people, that you've got a duty to change their lives. You know, you can make any example, but take yourself into the future. Visualize a future where you are still trapped. What are those things that you are not able to achieve for yourself because you have allowed fear? And here's the beauty about life. Whilst you allow yourself to be entrapped in that situation, life goes on. It does not wait for you to be able to move or to get out of the trap that you have created for yourself. You have to be deliberate and visualize yourself in the future. Imagine the worst, and then use the energy that comes from that visualization to craft a better way of dealing with your fears. Let's go to the third step. The third step is all about challenging the assumption. What are these assumptions that you have or that you have created about the fear? Let's go back to speaking. Is the assumption that you are going to die if you speak in front of a lot of people? Is the assumption that you're going to cause an accident once you start driving? Challenge those assumptions and ask yourself, have I ever heard of someone reported dead because they were speaking in front of people? Just by starting getting into a car and turning on that ignition, have people just died out of that? So once you look at your assumptions and you challenge those assumptions, you might find that, and you will definitely find that they do not hold true. So because they will not be holding any truth, you must just throw them away and do the things that you're supposed to be doing. The fourth element, talk about your fears. Goes back to acknowledging. If you cannot acknowledge your fear, you cannot talk about them. Look at somebody that you trust, that you can share with, and confide in them as a start to say, I've got these fears. How can I go about to deal with these fears? Just by releasing and talking about those fears, you will feel a lot of weight being removed from your shoulders so that you can move yourself forward. So the key to dealing with your fears is also about talking about your fears to those people or that person that you trust. It's all about vulnerability. And again, just keeping it in your head does not remove the fact that the fear exists. So talk about it so that you release it out of your system. The last point about dealing with your fear, which is the fifth point, is about going out and doing it. The very same thing that you fear, you can only change once you do it. If you are afraid of swimming, you cannot learn swimming by standing next to a pool and watching others swim. You have to throw yourself in the pool. And in that way, you will deal with your fears of water, as an example, unless if they are so deep-rooted to a point where you need a therapist. I'm not talking about those types of challenges. For you to know how to drive, you have to jump behind the steering wheel, take that seat and drive. The way to deal with a fear of presenting is about presenting. There is no other way. There's no two way about it. Unfortunately, in life, there are certain things that we cannot outsource, like the examples that I've mentioned. Those are the things that you've got to do yourself. So, you have been gifted with talents. You have been gifted with abilities. Don't deny yourself and others the ability to shine and be a model to others, to shine a light of others, because you allow the four-letter word, F-E-A-R, to paralyze you. Paralyze that fear and change your life to the better. Until we meet in the next session, please continue to subscribe on this channel and continue to share, like, and comment so that we can expand this knowledge to others. Thank you.